Does it cross your mind to be slightly sorry? Do you even care that you might be wrong? Was it fun? Well, I hope you had a blast while you dragged me along. Hello, it's Forever Fanatic, and today I will be talking about Good For You from Dear Evan Hanson. I really like listening to this song. It's just really orally pleasing to me. It was well written and well sung. My problem with it, though, is the people who are singing it. I feel like this would have been so much more powerful as a heartbreak song from the Murphys, but it's actually from people who knew Evan before the Murphys, etc. The Murphy incident and all. So I will just dive right into why I don't think each character for this should have been the one singing it. I mean, honestly, it's realistic that they would be, but I don't feel like they have any right to talk. Let's start with Alana. That part I just sang was hers, and I feel like the first half could apply to pretty much all three of the characters singing the song. Does it cross your mind to be slightly sorry? There were a lot of things that Alana did that were crossing the line. One of my friends almost committed suicide, and I was devastated. I started spending as much time with her as possible to just figure out how to help her get out of depression. And if this were a real person that Alana was talking to, when all of this stuff she did to Evan would be absolutely unacceptable. If he, she thinks all of this is real. So, she is telling this best friend to share his private life of his friend who committed suicide. And she decides to post it on the web. That is an invasion of privacy on so many levels, and she doesn't care. She's not sorry at all for it, and she did all of this for attention. I mean, Evan sort of did for attention too, but it started out with good intentions and turned into something bad. Hers started out as bad intentions, and she disguised it as something good. Do you even care that you might be wrong? Alana is extremely ambitious, and she thinks she knows everything. So she'll talk about how the people want to hear this, and no, not many people cared. That's why she needed that info from Evan. It was after she posted the suicide note that it really started picking up. Yeah. Everything she did was to further herself. And she didn't care how she used Evan, who she thought was a grieving friend at the time, how she used Evan to get what she wanted, to get attention. So, then she goes on to, well, I hope you had a blast while you dragged me along. Not one point did Evan drag Alana. He actually hardly brought her into it at all. He did bring the Connor project to her, but that was from her prompting. She is actually the reason why the Connor project existed, because she said that everyone's forgetting about your friend. Is this how you want him to go down? And he would have just let it die, but then he started thinking about, if Connor was forgotten, what about him? Would he also be forgotten in the same way, because he was also suicidal, etc. So it's her fault, and every step of the way she pushed to be there. She was never once dragged. So it's kind of ironic. Next we have Jared. Okay, I know a lot of people love Jared. and they said he's the best part. He's so funny. I cannot stand Jared because I have anxiety issues, and not severe ones. Just you know, every now and then I do have anxiety attacks, but they don't last very long, and they just go away. I don't even know what causes them or why they go away, but they're not severe. Um, but I do know what it is like to have anxiety. And Jared, if I knew him in real life, he would trigger my anxiety so bad because everything he says is um, e- exploding what's actually happening and how people would view it. For example, the the suicide note or Evan's letter to himself, he called it a sex letter. And he kept saying, you're going to be hauled off to jail. He kept telling him the worst case scenario that would never actually happen. He was the very personification of anxiety. Things like when when Evan tried to kiss Connor's sister, he just, he amplifies it and makes it sound worse than it is. And he mocked Connor's suicide. He didn't care. Even though Connor was that bad of a person, he didn't care about someone's death. He mocked it, and he mocked Evan, and he expected them to be friends. And if you look up here, he's the one, okay, we need more emails. Jared laughs. This isn't funny. Oh, I think this is hilarious. And I think everyone else would probably think this is hilarious. He starts threatening him. Evan starts getting defensive because of what Jared's saying, and then he says something rude. Evan says something rude because he's hurt, etc. And Jared keeps going, and he seems to think. Later he says, and if somebody's in your way, crush them and leave them behind, which is delusional. That's not what happened at all. Actually, it was really interesting because Evan, after this happened to him, started standing up to things he found to be bullcrap. He started fighting Jared. Fighting Jared when Jared would make comments like that, instead of how when Jared made comments about him going to jail or anything else like that, Evan would just kind of, quietly mumble. Third one, I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but I can't stand Heidi. I get it, she's a single mother trying to make things work, except Evan spends a lot of time at home alone. And when he starts hanging out with Jared, quote unquote, she questions him. She's like, you've been spending an awful long time at Jared's. And no, something about you being at Jared's last night. But she had been, encouraging him at the beginning of the play to find friends, and yet she's not okay with the family friend. Yeah. Also, Taco Night, or Taco Tuesday, everyone kind of brushes this off because it's like, oh, it's once, it's no big deal. Except the look on Evan's face when she said she forgot meant it had happened before. And actually, I could very easily see Heidi being a forgetful person. At one point, Heidi and Evan are fighting, and he says basically that she doesn't know him, and that, I think he has something along the lines of what's so wrong about spending time with them, or something like that, and she gets this line, now you're free from the agonizing life you were living before. And the thing was, it was agonizing. He was lonely, he was depressed, and he wasn't even secretly depressed. Everything he did was lacked enthusiasm. He groaned, he would be sarcastic, like, oh good. Everything about it said depression or lack of interest. And she didn't try, she didn't know how to help with that, but she didn't get him better help. She didn't put more time in. And I know she works as a nurse. I think it was a nurse, and she takes classes, but she promised she would cancel that shift to spend time with him, and she didn't. When he broke his arm, she wasn't there, but that's to be expected. He was at work. But she never once investigated the subject. Because later she's like, I thought you said your boss drove you to work. Or to the hospital. She didn't know where it happened. She didn't know how it happened. And she didn't seem to care. Which was one of the main issues with Evan. When he started hanging out with the Murphys, he felt like he belonged somewhere. Like they didn't care who he was. Like, broken pieces type thing. Even though he knew that they couldn't see the broken pieces, they spent time with him, and that's why he stopped taking his medicine, because he didn't feel like he needed it for once since it was prescribed. However you want to look at Heidi, go ahead. I can't stand her. So those are my thoughts. Write your comments below, and I would be happy to read them and comment on them. Thank you for watching. Bye.